Hello, and welcome to Bookspot. I'm Earl Weinberg. This time we will continue our reading of Rewards and Fairies by Rudyard Kipling. The children are listening once again to Sir Richard, an old knight who came over with William the Conqueror. He is describing the time that King Henry, the second king after William, came to his area and had to be entertained, the king bringing with him his jester Rahere. Now, as I said, Henry is the second king after William. William became king of England by defeating King Harold. Harold died at the Battle of Hastings, right? He spoke me his thanks for the sport I had helped show him, and he had learned from d'Aquila enough of my folk and my castle in Normandy to graciously feign that he knew and had loved my brother there. This also is part of a king's work. Many great men sat at the high table, chosen by the king for their wits, not for their birth. I have forgotten their names and their faces. I only saw that one night. But, Sir Richard turned in his stride, but Rahere, flaming in black and scarlet among our guests, the hollow of his dark cheek flushed with wine, long laughing Rahere, and the stricken sadness of his face when he was not twisting it about. Rahere I shall never forget. At the king's outgoing, d'Aquila bade me follow him with his great bishops and two great barons to the little pavilion. We had devised jugglers and dancers for the court sport, but Henry loved to talk gravely with grave men, and d'Aquila had told him of my travels to the world's end. We had a fire of apple wood, sweet as incense, and the curtains at the door being looped up, we could hear the music and see the lights shining on mail and dresses. Rahere lay behind the king's chair. The questions he darted forth at me were as shrewd as the flames. I was telling of our fight with the apes, as ye called them, at the world's end. See the Knights of the Joyous Venture. But where is the Saxon knight that went with you? Said Henry. He must confirm these miracles. He is busy, said Rahere, confirming a new miracle. Enough miracles for today, said the king. Rahere, you have saved your long neck. Fetch the Saxon knight. Pest on it, said Rahere. Who would be a king's jester? I'll bring him here, brother, if you'll see that none of your home-brewed bishops taste my wine while I'm away. So he jingled forth between the men-at-arms and the door. Henry made many bishops in England without the Pope's leave. I know not the rights of the matter, but only Rahere dared jest about it. We waited on the king's next word. I think Rahere is jealous of you, he said, smiling to Nigel of Ely. He was one of the bishops. William of Exeter was the other. Well-washed, the Saxons called him, and he laughed long. Rahere is priest at heart. I shall make him a bishop. Shall I make him a bishop, d'Aquila? Says the king. There might be worse, said our Lord of Pevensey. Rahere would never do what Anselm has done. This Anselm, Archbishop of Canterbury, had gone off raging to the Pope at Rome because Henry would make bishops without his leave either. I knew not the rights of it, but d'Aquila did, and the king laughed. Anselm means no harm. He should have been a monk, not a bishop, said the king. I'll never quarrel with Anselm or his pope till they quarrel with my England. If we can keep the king's peace till my son comes to rule, no man will lightly quarrel with our England. Amen, said d'Aquila, but the king's peace ends when the king dies. This is true. The king's peace dies with the king. The custom then is that all laws are outlaw, and men do what they will till the new king is chosen. I will amend that, the king said hotly. I will have it so that though king, son, and grandson were all slain in one day, still the king's peace should hold over all England. What is a man that his mere death must upheave a people? We must have a law. Truth, said William of Exeter, but he would have said that to any word of the king. The two great barons behind said nothing. This teaching was clean against their stomachs, for when the king's peace ends, the great barons go to war and increase their lands. At that instant we heard Rahere's voice returning in a scurril Saxon rhyme against William of Exeter. Well wist, well wast, where lay his fortunes, when he that fawned on the king for his crozier, and amidst our laugh he burst in with one arm round Hugh and one round the old pilgrim of Netherfield. "Here is your knight, brother," he said, "and for the better disport of the company, here is my fool. Hold up, Saxon Samson, the gates of Gaza are clean carried away." Hugh broke loose, white and sick, and staggered to my side. The old man blinked upon the company. We looked at the king, but he smiled. "Rahir promised he would show me some sport after supper to cover his morning's offense," he said to Diaquila. "So is this thy man, Rahir?" "Even so," said Rahir. "My man he has been, and my protection he has taken, ever since I found him under the gallows at Stamford Bridge, telling the kites atop that if he was Harold of England." There was a great silence upon these last strange words, and Hugh hid his face on my shoulder, woman fashion. "It is most cruel true," he told me. "The old man proved it to me at the beat after you left, and again at our hut, even now. It is Harold, my king." Diaquilus crept forward. He walked about the man and swallowed. "Bones of the saints," said he, staring. "Many a stray shot goes too well home," said Rahir. The old man flinched as at an arrow. "Will you hurt me still?" he said in Saxon. "It was on some bones of some saints that I promised I would give my England to the great Duke." He turned on us all, crying shrilly, "Thanes, he has caught me at Rowan a lifetime ago. If I had not promised, I should have lain there all my life. What else could I have done? I have lain in a straight prison all my life none the less. There is no need to throw stones at me." He guarded his face with his arms and shivered. "Now his madness will strike him down," said Rahir. "Cast out the evil spirit, one of you new bishops." Said William of Exeter, "Harold was slain at Santlache fight. All the world knows." "I think this man must have forgotten," said Rahir. "Be comforted, father. Thou wast well slain at Hastings 40 years agone, less 3 months and 9 days. Tell the king." The man uncovered his face. "I thought they would stone me," he said. "I did not know I spoke before a king." He came to his full, towering height, no mean man, but frail beyond belief. The king turned to the tables and held him out his own cup of wine. The old man drank and beckoned behind him, and before all the Normans, my Hugh bore away the empty cup Saxon fashion upon the knee. "It is Harold," said Diaquila. "His own stiff-necked blood kneels to serve him." "Be it so," said Henry. "Sit thou then, that hast been Harold of England." The madman sat, and hard, dark Henry looked at him between half-shut eyes. We others stared like oxen, all but Diaquila, who watched Rahir as I have seen him watch a far sail at sea. The wine and the warmth cast the old man into a dream. His white head bowed, his hands hung. His eye indeed was opened, but his mind was shut. When he stretched his feet, they were scurfed and road-cut like a slave's. "Ah, Rahir," cried Hugh, "why hast thou shown him thus? Better to have let him die than shame him and me." "Shame thee?" said the king. "Would any baron of mine kneel to me if I were witless, discrowned, and alone, as Harold had my throne?" "No," said Rahir, "I am the sole fool that might do it, brother, unless," he pointed at Diaquila, whom he had only met that day, "yonder tough Norman crab kept me company. But, Sir Hugh, I did not mean to shame him. He hath been somewhat punished through, maybe, little fault of his own." "Yet he lied to my father the Conqueror," said the king, and the old man flinched in his sleep. "Maybe," said Rahir, "but thy brother Robert, whose throat we propose to slit soon with our own hands—" "Hut!" the king said, laughing. "I'll keep Robert at my table for a life's guest when I catch him. Robert means no harm. It is all his cursed barons." "None the less," said Rahir, "Robert may say that thou hast not always spoken the stark truth to him about England. I should not hang too many men on that bough." "And it is certain," said Hugh, "that," he pointed to the old man, "Harold was forced to make his promise to the great Duke." "Very strongly forced," said de Aquila. He never had any pride in the Duke William's dealings with Harold before Hastings. Yet, as he said, one cannot build a house all of straight sticks. "No matter how he was forced," said Henry, "England was promised to my father William by Edward the Confessor. Is it not so?" William of Exeter nodded. "Harold confirmed that promise to my father on the bones of the saints. Afterwards he broke his oath and would have taken England by the strong hand." "Oh, la, la," Rahere rolled up his eyes like a girl, "that ever England should be taken by a strong hand." Seeing that Red William and Henry after him had done just that, in that fashion snatched it from Robert of Normandy, we others knew not where to look. But de Aquila saved us quickly. "Promises kept or broken," he said, "Harold came near enough to breaking us Normans at Senlac." "Was it so close a fight then?" said Henry. "A hair would have turned it either way," de Aquila answered. "His housecarls stood like rocks against rain. Where wast thou, Hugh, in it?" "Among Godwin's folk beneath the Golden Dragon, till your front gave back and we broke our ranks to follow," said Hugh. "But I bade you stand! I bade you stand! I knew it was all a deceit!" Harold had waked and leaned forward as one crying from the grave. "Ah, and now we see how the traitor himself was betrayed," said William of Exeter, and looked for a smile from the king. "I made thee bishop to preach at my bidding," said Henry, and turning to Harold, "Tell us here how thy people fought us." He said, "Their sons serve me now against brother Robert." The old man shook his head cunningly. "Na, na, na," he cried, "I know better. Every time I tell my tale, men stone me. But, thanes, I will tell you a greater thing. Listen!" And he told us how many paces it was from some Saxon saint's shrine to another shrine, and how many more back to the abbey of the battle. "Aye," said he, "I have trodden it too often to be out even 10 paces. I move very swiftly. Harold of Norway knows that, and so does Tostig my brother. They lie at ease at Stamford Bridge, and from Stamford Bridge to Battle Abbey it is—" He muttered over many numbers and forgot us. "Aye," said de Aquila, all in a muse, "that man broke Harold of Norway at Stamford Bridge and came nearer to breaking us at Santlach, all within 1 month." "But how did he come alive from Santlach fight?" asked the king. "Ask him. Hast thou heard it, Rahere?" "Never. He says he has been stoned too often for telling the tale. But he can count you off Saxon and Norman shrines till daylight," said Rahere, and the old man now nodded proudly. "My faith," said Henry after a while, "I think even my father the great Duke would pity him if he could see." "How if he does see?" said Rahere. Hugh covered his face with his sound hand. "Aye, why hast thou shamed him?" he cried again to Rahere. "No, no," says the old man, reaching to pluck at Rahere's cape. "I am Rahere's man. None stone me now," and he played with the bells on the scallops of it. "How if he had been brought to me when you found him?" said the king to Rahere. "You would have held him prisoner again, as the great Duke did," Rahere answered. "True," said our king. "He is nothing except his name. Yet that name might have been used by stronger men to trouble my England. Yes, I must have made him my life's guest, as I shall make Robert." "I knew it," said Rahere, "but whilst this man wandered mad by the wayside, none cared what he called himself." "I learned to cease talking before the stones flew," said the old man, and Hugh groaned. "Ye have heard. Witless, landless, nameless, and, but for my protection, masterless, he can still make shift to bide his doom under open sky." "Then wherefore didst thou bring him here for a mock and a shame?" cried Hugh, beside himself with woe. "A right just mock and a just shame," cried William of Exeter. "Not to me," said Nigel of Ely. "I see and I tremble, but I neither mock nor judge." Well spoken, Ely. Rahir falls into the pure fool again. I'll pray for thee when I turn monk. Thou hast given thy blessing on a war between two most Christian brothers. He meant the war forward twixt Henry and Robert of Normandy. I charge you, brother, he says, wheeling on the king, dost thou mock my fool? The king shook his head, and so then did smooth William of Exeter. De Aquila, dost thou mock him? Rahir jingled from one to the other, and the old man smiled. By the bones of the saints, not I, said our Lord of Pevensey. I know how dooms near he broke us at Saint-Lache. Sir Hugh, you are excused the question, but you, too, valiant, loyal, honorable, and devout barons, lords of man's justice in your own bounds, do you mock my fool? He shook his bauble in the very faces of those two barons whose names I have forgotten. Na, they said, and waved him back foolishly enough. He hies him across to staring, nodding Harold, and speaks from behind his chair. No man mocks thee. Who here judges this man? Henry of England, Nigel, de Aquila? On your souls, swift with the answer, he cried. None answered. We were all, the king not least, overwhelmed by that terrible scarlet and black wizard gesture. Well for your souls, he said, wiping his brow. Next, shrill like a woman, oh, come to me! And Hugh ran forward to hold Harold that had slidden down in the chair. Hearken, said Rahir, his arm round Harold's neck. The king, his bishops, the knights, all the world's crazy chessboard neither mock nor judge thee. Take that comfort with thee, Harold of England. Hugh heaved the old man up, and he smiled. Good comfort, said Harold. Tell me again. I have been somewhat punished. Rahir hallooed it once more into his ear as the head rolled. We heard him sigh, and Nigel of Ely stood forth praying loudly. Out! I will have no Norman, Harold said as clearly as I speak now, and he refuged himself on Hugh's sound shoulder and stretched out and lay all still. Dead? Said Una, turning up a white face in the dusk. That was his good fortune, to die in the king's presence and on the breast of the most gentlest, truest knight of his own house. Some of us envied him, said Sir Richard, and fell back to take Swallow's bridle. Turn left here, Puck called ahead of them from under an oak. They ducked down a narrow path through a close ash plantation. The children hurried forward, but cutting a corner, charged full abreast into the thorn faggot that old Hobden was carrying home on his back. My, said he, have you scratted your face, Miss Una? Sorry, it's all right, said Una, rubbing her nose. How many rabbits did you get today? That's tellins. The old man grinned as he rehoisted his faggot. I reckon Must Ridley, he got rheumatism along a line by the dike to see I didn't snap up any. Think of that now. They laughed a good deal while he told them the tale. And just as he crawled away, I heard someone hollerin' to the hounds in our woods, said he. Didn't you hear? You must have been asleep, surely. Oh, what about the sleeper you promised to show us? Dan cried. Here he be, house and all. Hobden dived into the prickly heart of the faggot and took out a dormouse's wonderfully woven nest of grass and leaves. His blunt fingers parted it as if it had been precious lace. And tilting it toward the last of the light, he showed the little red furry chap curled up inside, his tail between his eyes that were shut for their winter sleep. Let's take him home. Don't breathe on him, said Una. It'll make him warm, and he'll wake up and die straight off, won't he, Hobden? That's a heap better by my reckoning than waking up and finding himself in a cage for life. No, we'll lay him into the bottom of this hedge. That's just right. No more trouble for him till come spring. And now we'll all go home. A Carol. O Lord, who did the ox command to kneel to Judah's king, he binds his frost upon the land to ripen it for spring. To ripen it for spring, good sirs, according to his word, which well must be, as ye can see, and who shall judge the Lord? When we poor fenmen skate the ice or shiver on the wold, we hear the cry of a single tree that breaks her heart in the cold. That breaks her heart in the cold, good sirs, and rendeth by the board, which well must be, as ye can see, and who shall judge the Lord? Her wood is crazed and little worth, excepting as to burn, that we may warm and make our mirth until the spring return. Until the spring return, good sirs, when people walk abroad, which well must be, as ye can see, and who shall judge the Lord? God bless the master of this house, and all that sleep therein, and guard the fens from pirate folk, and keep us all from sin, to walk in honesty, good sirs, of thought and deed and word, which shall befriend our latter end, and who shall judge the Lord? The end. But Kipling wrote a great deal about English history and his view of history in general. And here are some of the poems that came from that. Cities and Thrones and Powers. Cities and thrones and powers stand in time's eye almost as long as flowers which daily die. But as new buds put forth to glad new men, out of the spent and unconsidered earth the cities rise again. This season's daffodil, she never hears what change, what chance, what chill cut down last year's, but with bold countenance and knowledge small esteems her 7 days' continuance to be perpetual. So time, that is o'erkind to all that be, ordains us e'en as blind, as bold as she, that in our very death and burial sure, shadow to shadow well persuadeth, saith, see how our works endure. Kipling has written a lot in these books about the Norman invasion and the Saxons. Kipling really wanted to see conquered and conquerors come to peace. He may not have been realistic in that, but he deeply wanted it. Norman and Saxon. My son, said the Norman baron, I am dying, and you will be heir to all the broad acres in England that William gave me for share when he conquered the Saxon at Hastings, and a nice little handful it is. But before you go over to rule it, I want you to understand this. The Saxon is not like us Normans. His manners are not so polite, but he never means anything serious till he talks about justice and right. When he stands like an ox in the furrow with his sullen eyes set on your own and grumbles, this isn't fair dealing, my son, leave the Saxon alone. You can horsewhip your Gascony archers or torture your Picardy spears, but don't try that game on the Saxon. You'll have the whole brood round your ears. From the richest old thane in the country to the poorest chained serf in the field, they'll be at you and on you like hornets, and if you are wise, you will yield. But first you must master their language, their dialect, proverbs, and songs. Don't trust any clerk to interpret when they come with the tale of their wrongs. Let them know that you know what they're saying, and let them feel you know what to say. Yes, even when you want to go hunting, hear 'em out if it takes you all day. They'll drink every hour of the daylight and poach every hour of the dark. It's the sport, not the rabbits, they're after. We've plenty of game in the park. Don't hang them or cut off their fingers. That's wasteful as well as unkind. For a hard-bitten South Country poacher makes the best man-at-arms you can find. Appear with your wife and the children at their weddings and funerals and feasts. Be polite but not friendly to bishops. Be good to all poor parish priests. Say we, us, and ours when you're talking instead of you fellows and I. Don't ride over seeds. Keep your temper. And never you tell 'em a lie. And we will close with the song that began this Pluck of Pook's Hill and Rewards and Fairies, the Tree Song. Of all the trees that grow so fair, old England to adorn, Greater are none beneath the sun than oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, good sirs, all of a midsummer's morn. Surely we sing of no little thing in oak and ash and thorn. Oak of the clay lived many a day or ere Aeneas began. Ash of the loam was a lady at home when Brute was an outlaw man. Thorn of the down saw new Troy town, from which was London born. Witness thereby the ancient tree of oak and ash and thorn. Yew that is old in churchyard mold, he breedeth a mighty bow. Alder for shoes do wise men choose, and beech for cups also. But when ye have killed and your bowl is spilled, and your shoes are clean outworn, back ye must speed for all that ye need to oak and ash and thorn. Oh, do not tell the priest our plight, or he would call it a sin. But we have been out in the woods all night, a conjuring summer in. And we bring you news by word of mouth, good news for cattle and corn. Now is the sun come up from the south with oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, good sirs, all of a midsummer morn. England shall bide till judgment tide by oak and ash and thorn. The end.